right? So it's been fun to see the community piece being consistent along the years, but what it's really flourished or evolved into is more of a really robust community that gets started through these programs and then is really supported or maintained through the online platform as well. So we're finding that the relationships that are being created at Harbor aren't these sort of super surface level, superficial sort of connections that you might have with LinkedIn. Like, no, these are actual real world relationships of individuals who have come together and struggled with an issue or a challenge or an opportunity and have created something together and grown together.
Hey everyone, I'm your host, Courtney Post, and this is Let's Vet Together by Suveto, a show where we'll be highlighting stories of growth, ownership, and well-being in the veterinary industry and having real conversations about how we can make veterinary medicine better for everyone. If this is your first time listening, welcome. We're glad you're here. If you've already been a part of our community, make sure to follow us on whatever platform you're listening from and give us a review to let us know how we're doing. We really appreciate you for coming back. Hello and welcome to Let's Vet Together. Today is a really fun day on the Let's Vet Together podcast because I'm hanging out with my friend and colleague, Dr. Rob Trimble, who is an expert podcaster. He is the master of all virtual education and communication. So today's going to be a really fun and easy day. Welcome back to the podcast, Rob.
Hey, thanks for having me, Courtney. Excited to be here.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into all things Harbor, I see you have your Harbor sweatshirt on. Right. And for anyone that has ever interacted with Harbor, where Rob and I are both interacting with that team, you've probably heard me say that Harbor is like my third and favorite child. I have two real children and Harbor is my third. So on top of having, the excitement of having Rob on the podcast, I also get to talk about Harbor for the next 30 minutes. So that's always exciting to me. But before we get to that, Rob, you are coming to us not from your home where you live, 360 days out of the year. Maybe you have five, no, it's more like 340, right? You're probably out traveling.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah.
But you're actually coming to us from your hometown, from original your childhood home, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and also share with us your local treat, because I'm excited for our Let's Vet Together community to learn about your local treat that you brought with you today.
Got it. Okay, sure. No, I'm calling to you from actually Trimble, Illinois. My last name. Of course, it's Trimble. It's something Illinois. Like my great grandfather started a little convenience store on a railroad that went through here before there was even a town. It was known as Trimble's Convenience Store, and then the town little built up around
our
it.
Adventurers, because you come from a long line of adventure. Rob,
apparently, yeah. My folks are out traveling the world right now a little bit too, so I guess it does run the family a bit. But yeah, I grew up in a little farm in southeast Illinois, little dairy farm. It's where I'm calling from right now. My local treat is actually one of my absolute favorite dressings. French dressing. It's called Mullins. And it's not just your average French dressing. I mean, this is stuff we'd eat on monocles pizza. We would put this on everything when we were kids.
Really?
And it's
so
okay,
give me an example of what you'd put it on. Give me three things you'd put it on aside from a salad.
Oh, I would put it on pizza any day, all day. And that's usually my go-to. I actually put it on pizza more than I do salad, I would say. I don't know if I use it on much other than just pizza now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah. But
we'll take pizza. Yeah, that's fun. It's like the buffalo blue cheese, I guess. Everyone uses blue cheese with their pizza, and out in rural Illinois, it's French dressing. So Mullins French dressing. Right. Fun. So, Rob, remind us of your journey to where you're sitting today as really, the energy and the brain and the heart behind Harbor, because you've had an unconventional journey, from through vet school to practicing to not practicing. So give us just a recap for any of those folks that are joining us that have not heard our first podcast together.
Yeah, I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version of it here. So my uncle was a veterinarian and he was a practice owner. He serviced the dairy farm that I grew up on. So that was my first lens into vet med. It was a very natural progression for me to go into animal science. That's where I went to undergrad here at Illinois, continued at Illinois for another 4 years for veterinary school. I met my future wife there in vet school as well. She's also a veterinarian now. I remember when we got into fourth year veterinary school, and her aunt and uncle are both practice owning vets as well up in Rockford, Illinois. So keeping ownership and leadership in the hands of veterinarians is something that's really personally and professionally important to me. I remember our fourth year, we were getting ready to go into clinics and we're thinking, what's coming next? What's happening after school? What are we going to do? How do we want to start our careers? What sort of life do we want to build? And importantly, we came across this question of, does the future that we're going to inherit as veterinarians, does that look like what our ancestors had inherited, right? Our aunts and uncles? And we thought, well, probably not. Right, we're going to experience a lot more change than they did. We looked around, we saw how fast our phones are getting smaller. And I mean, it seems like I just bought this thing and now it's like 6 months later, it's already getting a little bit out of date, right? So we saw this trend and we thought, man, we're going to experience a lot more change, but change is uncomfortable. Change is scary. And so we knew that we were, when you're young, your brain is more plastic and it's more flexible and dynamic. And we thought, well, what's something we can do now to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? If we know the future is going to be uncomfortable with change, what can we do now to get, prepare ourselves for it? And we were looking around and we looked at the country and we're looking at a map. Honestly, we thought, we can go anywhere. What's the most uncomfortable thing we can imagine doing? And for two kids that grew up on farms in Illinois, moving to California was pretty scary. So we said, let's go there. So we moved to California. We started working actually together in our first little GP practice in the Monterey Bay, a little town called Hollister. They worked there for about 2 years and very quickly, and we were both hired there because they wanted to bring a lot of positive change to the practice. We're like, great, that's what we want to bring too. And so we started to jump in and recommend positive change, like let's have a team meeting, right? That was a big change.
Wow,
just having a team meeting.
So innovative.
Sure.
A team meeting.
Well, but check it out. The reason why they didn't have team meetings is because the boss, anytime they had a team meeting, it was an opportunity to ream them out, chew them out for doing something bad. So they were gun shy of getting together and talking about how to improve. That was very natural for me. I was like, well, let's just figure out how to get better. We don't have to make a big deal or make people angry about it. Let's just grow together. But so very quickly we learned that regardless of whether you're in Illinois or in California, change is still uncomfortable. Sure. So very quickly we got sucked up into the San Francisco Bay Area, where we started working at a couple of different animal healthcare startups. I didn't know that was a thing. First off, veterinary startups. The first one I worked at was called Vet Pronto. It's kind of like Uber for vet med. It was a house call service. So I was a delivery, kind of like the delivery driver, so to speak, as the veterinarian. I had an app on my phone that told me which house I was going to be going to or apartment, which patients I was going to be seeing. We covered everything from curative medicine to preventative and wellness care to euthanasia. Pretty much anything in the home that we could do, we'd do it. Did that for about a year as their premise licensed vet, and then had a really cool opportunity to co-found a company called Fuzzy Pet Health. It was still a house call service, but I guess it's more like Netflix for vet med, and that it was built on a subscription model. Yeah. So really non-traditional service delivery model, but also really non-traditional business model. We're all used to the fee for service model, where every little service that you deliver as a veterinarian or a veterinary team member gets a fee associated with it. This pretty much flipped that model on its head. We said, we have a dedicated set amount of money with the subscription revenue coming in that we know we can build a healthcare service around. What can we do with this chunk of change from our customers to build a really awesome product or service? So that's where that sort of that idea went. Had a house call service as well as a telemedicine component to it as well. Did that for a little while, got a little burnout on venture capital, and found the next opportunity in my career to be the Veterinary Entrepreneurship Academy. That's where I first got my, I think, passion for teaching veterinary students and helping them see and avoid some of the frustrations that I definitely ran into in the first 10 years of my career. I thought, man, if I could help them avoid some of those pain points, how much better it would be for their lives and for the profession too. You get a whole bunch of people that can learn learn to speak the language of business and navigate the complexity of the world of veterinary business, I thought that'd be a great thing to add to the profession. So that's where I started at the VEA, teaching the fundamentals of business. Is where I met Harbor. Harbor was one of the startups that went through that work, matched a vet student to work at Harbor, and she now works with us here at Suveto, right? Gabby Vega, Dr. Vega. So anyway, really fun to see her journey and growth as well. And it's just one of several students along the year. And I guess the most enjoyable aspect of it is now that we've had a few years since the VEA, and now I've been here at Harbor for a few years, we're seeing what that input is coming with in terms of results, right? We're seeing the students now graduate, they're becoming veterinarians, and they're able to communicate with their clients better, because they understand how to identify value and match what they're looking for with the service that meets what their needs are. So it's just been really thrilling to see that growth along the way.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and growth it has been, and rapid change it has been. So before we kind of dive into kind of what is happening like within Harbor and how those programs have evolved and kind of how we've tweaked things along the way, I'd like to just establish in your words, Rob, like what is Harbor today? Like not what the programs are, but like when someone says Harbor, like what does that mean to you? How has that changed from when you first met Harbor through the VEA? What has that, that shift been like for you personally? In your words, I'd love to hear your take on Harbor.
If I could put it in just one word, I would say community. That's probably the shortest, simplest phrase that I would use to describe Harbor today. It's community. It started out as when it was going through the VEA, the idea was to create a LinkedIn for vet med, and it still is that to some degree today. We have an online platform, a place for vet students to be able to go and connect with other vet students and other veterinary professionals.
Sure.
But it's really evolved over the last few years as we've built our programs into more of an experiential learning community. Right. So it's been fun to see the community piece being consistent along the years, but what it's really flourished or evolved into is more of a really robust community that gets started through these programs and then is really supported or maintained through the online platform as well. So we're finding that the relationships that are being created at Harbor aren't these sort of super surface level, superficial sort of connections that you might have with LinkedIn. Like, no, these are actual real world relationships of individuals who have come together and struggled with an issue or a challenge or an opportunity and have created something together and grown together, right? That's a different bond than simply connecting with someone with a click on an online platform, right? So that's how it's evolved a little bit, I think, and how it's grown.
Agree. I think it's gone from something that it's like, wow, from a social media kind of platform standpoint, wouldn't it be great if we could connect like-minded veterinary students and with some, experienced veterinarians and in this like dedicated, arena for them. And I think what you and I realized, and really what you brought to life through your work at VEA, was that sure, you can have the like-mindedness that is drawn, to this kind of virtual community platform. But what happens when that community learns together, tackles a challenge or an opportunity together, is social together? Like there's so many components of building that relationship. And then also, how do you build upon it? And that's really what, I feel comfortable saying. You might not say it about yourself, but really just the brilliance and the uniqueness that you have brought to Harbor, Rob, is that this is a community of opportunity to continually step up and learn and apply what you're learning in the real world. So
in the real world,
let's start at the beginning, right? So vet students, which is, kind of where folks first find Harbor. You have brought something to Harbor called HBE, the Harbor Business Experience. Yeah. So can you give us just a little bit of a recap of what the HBE was, is now, and what's on the horizon? Because there's some pretty exciting stuff coming.
Yes, and I will preface it with one leading thought, in that when I was in vet school, got into clinics, and I saw people that seemed to be suffering. They were unhappy. And I thought, well, that's weird. Like, I'm getting ready to go into this profession. Is this a systemic thing? Are we suffering at a macro scale, or is this just a unique thing for my local school or my local culture? learned that there's now a bigger issue with well-being. So I started studying the science of happiness, the science of positive well-being. Learned what are the key drivers of positive engagement that drives motivation within a practice and within a culture. Learn there's three big things: autonomy being one of them. You have some control over your future. Number two would be that you're able to see yourself grow and develop at something that you care about. The psychological need there is called competency. And the third piece, which relates to the Harbor business experience, is the psychological need of relatedness. Mm-hmm. You feel connected to something bigger than the self, that you're connecting with other like-minded individuals who share the same values, that are pursuing common goals, right? And so that's what we start with the HBE, the Harbor Business Experience. Some of the students that have gone through our programs and vets that have worked with us have learned about the sales funnel, right? Or the marketing funnel, right? Sure. So the HBE would be at the top of our funnel. It reaches the greatest numbers of students. And it builds community. It touches on that third piece, the relatedness. Effectively, we work with our student ambassadors to host monthly or regular conversations at the front line of veterinary practices, or veterinary colleges, sorry. So basically, students are getting together once a month, and Harbor's created two pieces of educational content that relate to a core business fundamental. And we use the business model canvas as the framework to teach a lot of these core concepts. So each month, students can get together and discuss one of these core business fundamentals and really how it relates to them as participants in the world of veterinary medicine. So that's what it's all about. It's bringing like-minded individuals together.
Book club that has met like podcast listening or watching, a video, series, or gone through a training course that you have put together on one topic, and then students come together to actually like discuss it. And how does this show up in the real life? And what have they experienced maybe, in the practices that they've worked in, or, or about to go and work in, with, a summer experience. So I like to think of HBE as it's like on campus, like book club with a business fundamental.
I like that. Yes, exactly. That's the HBE. And then the cool thing this year, brand new, that we're launching, they get together it's throughout the school years when this program runs. And so they get together throughout the school year, they build these awesome bonds. And then we wanted to finish it with something really big and exciting. So this year, brand new, is we're hosting a hackathon. And some people may have never heard of a hackathon before, but effectively you come up with a really gnarly, complex problem, and you put it out to a bunch of really creative, innovative individuals, and you say, can you come up with some solutions to this problem? And so that's effectively what we're going to do with all of these students from around the country and frankly around the world that have been studying this core concepts and have been coming together and building communities. We're going to ask them in their communities, hey guys, here's a problem from two real world companies. We're going to work with a couple different sponsors to come in and create these things and say, what do you think? And so they're going to have some prizes associated with it, but just it's a fun way to actually apply some of the concepts and the community that they've been building over the last year.
Yeah, and what's so unique about this, and I'm so excited about the hackathon this year, is that these are coming from animal health organizations, partners within the veterinary healthcare space that are not necessarily hospital specific. Or as a veterinarian, I'm going to go out and practice small animal medicine. Let me go and kind of address a challenge within a hospital. This is going to be a little bit bigger. This is going to be about kind of what's happening in some of the more innovative animal health organizations that you can use your knowledge as a veterinarian and a veterinary student alongside your knowledge that you have, taken from HBE and really combined that. So I'm so excited for the hackathon this year. I think this is a really exciting, kind of move for HBE to grow into.
I am too. And I love that you mentioned that, because that really speaks to why we teach these fundamentals, because they're fundamental, right? Whether you're speaking about a veterinary practice or a big pharma, right? Sure. You are going to have similar fundamentals that you are all operating on. So that's why we teach these fundamentals. If you can learn to speak the language of business at a fundamental level, you can go anywhere all over the world. You can go to different countries and it's still consistent.
Yeah. So, kind of in the game of life, right? If we're playing life and, I've got my little car and I'm starting to fill things up. I still love that game. In the Harbor game of life, the next stop kind of along the road is something that we have formally called SHIP. the summer hospital immersion program. So for those listening that are familiar with SHIP, it is still absolutely alive and well. We've just clarified it a little bit to call it our ExternSHIP program. Right. So can you give us a little update on our ExternSHIP program, Rob, and kind of what, from the last time we spoke, like what has evolved with our externships?
Yeah, sure. So our Harbor Summer Externship Program, it's really the next step in our marketing funnel, right? And what's at the bottom of our funnel? We're trying to create veterinarians who have, like I mentioned, their ability to speak the language of business. They understand how to improve and grow a team. They understand how to lead a team through change. Right, we're trying to create leaders and owners at the bottom of our funnel, not something we can sell to, but someone that can help us grow as an organization, right? So the next step down in our funnel, the next stage in growth and learning for these individuals that go through Harbor is the summer externship program. 10 weeks long, takes place obviously over the summer. These students are matched to a veterinary practice within our network, and potentially beyond in the future if it continues to grow, because we've seen so much demand from students for this. We're already at capacity. It's just barely November here almost. So it's really excited for the future of where this is going. But effectively, students are working at a practice for 10 weeks long over the summer. They're working side by side with the practice team, seeing patients, handling client issues. They're also given a business project to work on over the summer, a project that can tangibly improve the practice in some way. They're also meeting with the practice leaders each week. Because along the way, we're also walking these students through a more robust curriculum that dives deeper into those same fundamentals that they were introduced to in the HBE, right? But now they're in an immersive setting. Now they're working at a veterinary practice. Now we can say, hey, you remember that fundamental called the value proposition? You know, your secret sauce, the things that make you different or more compelling than your competitor. Well, go talk to your practice team or your practice leaders. Ask them what your value proposition is for your practice. Right now, all of a sudden, we're starting to see this education that starts with the student. Now it's spreading a little bit. Now it's finding its way into other practice leaders and other team members, and they're starting to think more critically around how their business is running, right? How they can improve their practice, how they can improve the service they're offering to their clients.
And I can say firsthand, like the veterinary students that have participated in our 10-week long, summer externship, some of the business challenges or opportunities they have tackled and worked with within the hospitals have been really impactful. That our hospitals and the hospitals they're working in are saying like, this was so eye-opening. Like this student fundamentally impacted our business or our customer experience or the way we practice medicine. That this isn't just a hypothetical, go write a research paper on this. This is like actually being put to work and use in a hospital. And when you talk about an immersive learning experience, it's not just, I'm working alongside a veterinary team all day, and kind of gaining, firsthand veterinary experience. This is about actually like impacting the business in a really tangible way.
Bingo. And you can see why, right? I mean, these students, they're coming in with a lot of energy and creativity. Vet med's hard. It can be stressful. It's exhausting at times, right? It can be some of the highest times and some of the lowest times. And it can be, if you spend many years out in the veterinary profession, you can kind of get a little downtrodden. So to have a vet student come in with that innovation or the energy and the creativity and the optimism that they bring, it really, I think, also provides a jolt of energy. And you kind of maybe you pull some of that into your practice team as well. So I've also seen that.
From a scheduling perspective, Rob, can you just, talk a little bit about the optionality that exists within the summer externship experience? So there's the 10-week long externship, sure. And kind of new this year in the, kind of the past year is a little bit more of a flexible, kind of easier to schedule, sometimes more accessible opportunity for someone, based on kind of what's going on in their personal life or their school schedule.
Totally. Yeah. Because 10 weeks can be a lot to commit to. Especially if you're a fourth year veterinary student, you may not have a full 10 weeks to commit. Right. So that's really why we took all the good things of SHIP, or the summer externship program and try to say, well, how can we take all this good stuff and make it into something that would be more palatable or digestible or accessible, we'll say, for a fourth year veterinary student or someone who has limited time. And so really that's what we've done. We've made this 10-week program into a little bit more of a flexible program. So if you have 2 weeks only over Christmas, great. You can do an externship at one of our practices. You can do a 2-week externship. It's very similar to a regular externship. You're going and seeing patients, working alongside the practice team, but there's not this synchronous component to it like there is with the summer externship program. You're not meeting twice a week for class and guest speaker series, right? You don't have a specific project that you're working on. There's no concluding event that you go and present at like there is with the 10-week summer externship program. But this is a 2 to up to like 8-week program. It's very flexible. You can say, I want to work at one practice or I want to work at 3 practices, and you go to multiple different practices if you want. But it really allows you to say, I have this amount of time, anywhere from 2 up to 9-ish weeks, and you can say, I want to go here. And then you get all the access to the online content from the summer externship program. So you get the externship experience and at least some of the core content, all the guest speakers that have been recorded, all of the video lessons that have been recorded. You get access to that and you can go through in your own at your own time.
Perfect. And then finally, the last time we spoke, Rob, we had just launched Harbor Go, which is Harbor's, graduation to ownership program for new grads and early career veterinarians that really is yet that next step in the game of veterinary life that we're playing from Harbor Business Experience to externship to Go, which is really, about a learning program and an immersive learning program and community for new grads. So can you give us a little bit of how did the first year go? Because we've already kicked off now our second cohort of new grads that are participating in the Go program. How did the first year go, and what changes or improvements or updates do you have to that program?
Man, what a
I mean, that could be a whole other podcast.
Oh, it could,
it really...
right? What a fun and soul-filling program this has been to build. It's certainly one of the most, I think, creative and exciting opportunities I've had in my career to build a program like this. It's a 2-year business fellowship program, right, for new graduates. So these are new veterinarians that are learning how to be doctors for the first time. Life's hitting them pretty fast. They've got the deer in the headlights look. Remember that relatedness fundamental, or the psychological need that we talked about earlier, building a community? Same thing here with the Go program. Instead of being a new graduate kind of swimming in the waters of being a veterinarian for the first time by yourself, you get a community of peers that are going through that with you, and you meet regularly throughout this 2-year program. 2-year program is built over 8-week modules, and each one of those modules relates back to a core competency associated with practice leadership or practice ownership. Back to that, can you lead a team through change piece, right? That's one of our competencies that we emphasize in this program. But the first year's gone really, really well. We've obviously learned a ton. Anytime you host a program for the first year, oh my goodness, the learning is just through the roof. We've evolved a lot, learned what works well, what the new grads are really liking and doubling down on that and modifying along the way. So really seen a lot of growth and development over the last year. One of the most exciting things that I'm excited about right now that's happening, we're just over a year into the program. We're looking at the next year, and we're looking at what comes next after year 2, right? You mentioned optionality in the last question. That's one of the reasons I love working at Suveto, is because of the optionality that vets have to pursue leadership and ownership in different ways that make sense based on the type of lifestyle that they want to live. Independent practice ownership, great. We have a pathway for you. If you don't want to take the full risk of independent practice ownership, you want a shared ownership, share the risk and rewards, great. There's a pathway for that too. And that's one of the things we're talking about in the Go program. So the last year of the program, the thing that I've been really excited about lately is where we're doing work on what's called a capstone project. I mentioned the project that the summer externship students work on. It's kind of like that, just at a bigger scale, right? These are veterinarians now who are working on this project. They're leaders within their team. A little bit different when a vet student come in and say, hey, I've got this idea for a project, right? So they're working on a big project to fundamentally and tangibly improve their practice in some way. And then also we're defining what they're, if they want to pursue ownership, what type of ownership they might want to pursue. So one of the things I did at the Veterinary Entrepreneurship Academy is we help vet students go from, I have this crazy idea for a startup. And a lot of them were crazy, but you'd put structure around it. You'd walk them through the business model canvas and say, let's make sure our fundamentals are right. And then you can go into a business plan a little bit more solidly. Same idea here. We're going to be working through what are those fundamentals of your next ownership opportunity. Say they want to do a joint venture with Suveto. Great. Where do you want to be located? Let's talk about what's the most strategic place to be located for that. How long do you want to be there? How long, or what type of intensity of work do you want to live while you're working as this managing owner? So many of these questions we're able to address now in the capstone leading up to that ownership opportunity, ultimately making it easier for them to press the go button.
Sure. Oh, go button.
No pun intended, but I'll take it. No pun
intended, but take it, Rob. That was the cherry on top. And that actually brings us to close to time, which is wild because you and I could talk about, I think, Harbor and this programming and plans for the future and ways we want to continue to innovate and things that excite us. But it all comes from the community that we get to interact with every day, the vet students, the early career veterinarians that are a part of our day-to-day. I've always told vet students and veterinarians that they are shaping where we're going, so continue to ask and reflect and give feedback, because that is ultimately the path that Harbor wants to be on, and is to continue to keep up with the excitement and the energy and the innovation of its community. But before we wrap up, Rob, always love to end with some words of advice for I'd like to specifically address a veterinary student that might be listening and say, this all sounds amazing, but I don't have a business background. This sounds really intimidating. I got to focus on my classes. It sounds great, but this is not for me. Any words of advice for that student?
Yep. Back to that get comfortable being uncomfortable piece. Right. I remember whenever I was in vet school, I would feel that same emotion. I thought, I don't know anything about business. I took as many business electives as I could in vet school, and I still graduated thinking I was a dunce. Right. So I remember what it feels like to think like you don't know anything. And I remember what it feels like to feel that, your cortisol pumping through your blood whenever you start thinking about some of those things, and the imposter syndrome that comes along with it. If you pay attention to those things and hear them and feel them and think, and reframe that feeling away from something that is bad or negative and something that is more of a reality giving you a flag saying, hey, this is important, right? This is something you need to lean into. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, that's it. Lean into that right there. So reframe that feeling from something that's negative to saying, oh, that's exactly where I need to be going.
Love that. Get ready for the reframe. If you're uncomfortable there, that's actually where you should go.
Bingo.
Everyone get some French dressing for their pizza. Marching orders from Dr. Rob Trimble.
Mullins. It's good stuff. Great to hang out with you, Courtney.
Thanks for doing this, Rob. This is so fun. And I bet next year when we do this again, there will be even more improvements and updates and exciting changes to Harbor. So, let's put it on the calendar for next year at this time.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Courtney.
Thanks, Rob.